Hey, what's up everyone? James Dindorf here. For those of you who just saw my Frogger video, I guess it's apparent that one of my hobbies is restoring and fixing up old arcade machines. Well, after that video, I got a bunch of requests asking me to do a little tour of the game room that I've got, and so I thought I would do something like that. Now, this is going to be a bit more informal and kind of crude, but I thought I'd just do kind of a walkthrough of what I got. Right now, all the lights are off, but I'm going to go flip on the light here in just a second. So this is Miss Pac-Man. This is easily the game that I spent the most time and money restoring. Miss Pac-Man is kind of one of those gems that I wanted for a long time, and so when I finally got my hands on one, I really wanted to fix it up and restore it like it looked like it just came out of the factory. It's one of those games that everyone recognizes, so you want it to look good. As you can see, the artwork's all been replaced on the sides, the front. Actually, just about every piece of artwork was replaced other than the glass that covers the monitor here. Not a whole lot else to say about this one. Monitor was rebuilt. I did install what's called a 4-in-1 kit. Let me grab my keys to explain that here in a second. Basically, you see these two toggle switches here. These allow me to play either speed of Miss Pac-Man. If I change this switch, this changes the speed. But this one up here allows me to play either Miss Pac-Man or the regular Pac-Man. So you end up with basically 4 games there, and that's why they call it the 4-in-1 kit. The only other thing that I did that special from it just being completely original is I rigged up this 2-player button to also function as a credit button. So if you hit it once, it adds a credit. If you hit it twice, it adds 2 credits and starts a 2-player game. And even though Miss Pac-Man has a free play option, I did that because if it's on free play, it just stays on, here, let me add a credit here. It just stays on this screen, and that causes, some really bad burn-in on the monitor. So that's why I rigged it up like that. So that's Miss Pac-Man. Over here we've got Tetris. Not a whole lot to say about Tetris. Game in the late 80s. Good puzzle game. Everyone pretty much knows this one, and that's why it's a good one to have in a collection. But I picked this one up as a working machine. About the only thing I did was replace the marquee, and then I added a little paint to it. But well, that's about it for that one. This game only came as a kit, so it was never designed for a dedicated cabinet. It was just designed to be installed into a generic cabinet like this one here. Alright, so here we've got Final Fight, one of the better beat-em-ups in my opinion. Big fan of the side-scrolling fighters, so that's why I've got this guy here. I had the board, I just didn't have a cabinet for it, and so when I got this cabinet, it was completely, there was nothing inside, it was completely empty, so what better way to take use of it than throw Final Fight in there. So, it's interesting to note that this is actually a Sega Gremlin cabinet. Same ones that Frogger and a bunch of those old classics used, so that's why this one looks very similar to Frogger, because it is the same style cabinet. Here we've got Arkanoid, one of my favorite puzzle games. Again, this is just one of those from the late 80s that I remember playing quite a bit as a younger kid. And yeah, this is actually a Pac-Man cabinet. Again, this cabinet I got off Craigslist pretty much free, and so I thought this would be a good game to throw in there since this also came as a kit. Actually, all 3 of these games came as kits. Alright, getting into the classics, we got Donkey Kong Jr. This cabinet I got from my buddy's uncle, and he thought the monitor was shot. Basically all it needed was a cap kit. You really couldn't see much of an image on the screen, it was that faded. But cap kit, which is basically the capacitors for the monitor, replacing those really obviously rejuvenated the monitor, as you can see. But this was really a Frankenstein of a cabinet when I got it. It was actually a blue cabinet, a Donkey Kong cabinet, but the board inside was Donkey Kong Jr., and the bezel was actually, this right here was for Donkey Kong 3, and I believe the control panel was for original Donkey Kong. So since the board in there was Donkey Kong Jr., I decided, well, it makes no sense to throw that out. So I just basically painted the cabinet, added the appropriate artwork, and there you go. And you guys have all seen this if you've seen my other video. This is my Frogger that I decided to paint green since there was no wood grain vinyl remaining, or the original wood grain. So that's Frogger. I guess I don't need to say a whole lot about that one. Here we've got Centipede. This is the cabaret version, or mini version if you will. The interesting thing about these Atari cabarets is, unlike most of the others that have like a 13-inch monitor, this one actually has a full-size 19-inch. Aside from that, I threw some green T-molding on, and I went a little bit unoriginal by painting the sides white and adding the reproduction side art there, kind of mimicking the full upright version. And then I also added, if you can see here, added a backlight to the marquee here. Originally this one didn't, most of these cabarets didn't have a light for the marquee, which is kind of silly. So I just added a cheap fluorescent tube back there. And then I swapped out the trackball with a translucent blue, and then also with the bun, and added some backlights to kind of, add that cool factor to it. So that's the Centipede. Yes, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. This is the one game I remember playing as a kid at every Chuck E. Cheese, every pizza joint. I mean, I have a lot of fond memories, and this was actually the very first game that I fixed up, and probably, aside from Miss Pac-Man, spent the most time on, since it was my first one. But I'm pretty happy with it. There you can kind of see it's got the artwork. It is a little bit scuffed up from being moved, several times, but for the most part, it's pretty well intact yet. It's, of course, reproduction stuff in order to fit this cab. Let's see here. All the joysticks and everything is color coded. These aren't the original Leaf joysticks, and they're micro switch joysticks, meaning they use micro switches instead of leaf switches. And I kind of prefer that because they're a little more. They seem to be a little more precise in the movements. With the leaf sticks, you sometimes have problems, going diagonally and it activating at the same, those two switches at the same time. So these work actually, I think, better than the leaf sticks, even though they're not entirely original. So yeah, everything's color coded. I actually had this piece of plexiglass custom cut for the control panel to protect everything, since this gets a lot of use out of it, especially at parties. And then the other thing I did was I color coded the coin slots, which originally wasn't part of the the dedicated cabinet, but I thought I would add something to it. So, and since they're available, why not? So that's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And then here's my Medalist dartboard. Not a whole lot to say about this. It's basically like any of those dartboards you'd see in a bar. The only obvious difference is that the monitor's on top instead of below the main board. But it's always nice to have a dartboard, especially if you like to play. Everyone likes to throw some darts, and yeah, that's about all I got to say about a dartboard. So that's the game room as it lies right now. There's, as you can see, a lot of wall space here. I plan on putting some signs up, and I gotta get that bar and / game room theme going. So we'll see what happens from here. Not sure that there's going to be a whole lot of extra space to put games, which is kind of sad, but I don't know. We'll see. This love seat kind of sticks out now. But yeah, there you have it.